Evelina Chow, music director of Madeline Island Music Camp to this year. I was born in Chicago and started violin at the age of 8. I studied violin, went to Oberlin for a year and did my undergraduate at Juilliard, and did my master's degree in chamber music at SUNY Binghamton, and played in the Indianapolis Symphony for 3 years, and joined the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, at which point I switched to viola. And I did that, I became assistant principal viola for 30-some years. And now I'm at liberty, as I say, and moving on.
Okay, so how long have you been associated with the Madeline Island Music Camp?
We've been tallying that up, and I believe it's 27 years.
What attracted you to this enterprise?
I was just invited to substitute for a previous faculty member, and I think it was the involvement with chamber music which attracted me at first. And then as the program grew and the students got more experienced and more advanced, it was the process of teaching and coaching chamber music and being involved in their development that became really stimulating and gratifying for me.
I imagine there's a lot of places where young musicians can go for training. What is unique about the Madeline Island Music Camp?
It's only string quartets, and so it's extremely focused, and it's really dedicated to providing them with the skills to play chamber music, specifically quartets, which I believe is the most demanding genre there is for musicians.
What's special about the faculty up here?
Well, they're not only superb performers and musicians in their own right, but they also have a passion for teaching and passing on what they know. They're excellent communicators. They're experienced in performance and in the academic setting and in the festival setting. They work well with others, and they're just wonderful people.
Where do you find them? How do you recruit them?
The world of music is actually very small, and I tap into musical management. I talk to colleagues, and it's like anything else, it's word of mouth. And I look at archives of recordings, and then I talk to I issue invitations, I call them personally, I talk to their management, and if it works out with their schedule, and I think with Madeline's growing reputation, I think it's a very inviting place to come.
Why Madeline Island?
Why Madeline Island?
How'd you end up here?
Oh, it was like, I think I covered that in the first question. It was like...
the location?
That really didn't, in fact, that's an interesting, it didn't impact me so much. It was really the program, the opportunity to teach and perform in a very intimate setting. And I later discovered how beautiful it was, and so I was drawn to it because of that.
So it was the music first, and then the island was
Yes.
kind of a bonus.
Yes.
There must be some great success stories. Some of your students here must have gone on to great careers.
Well, off the top of my head, there's Nathan Cole, who joined the Chicago Symphony. He's a violinist who joined Chicago. Now he's in Los Angeles. And others have joined academic. Well, Kirsten Doctor is now a member of the Cavani Quartet and on the faculty of Cleveland Institute of Music.
Why the focus on quartets?
I think it's because composers will, if you read their letters and look at the archives, it's like poetry in that the art of the string quartet is a real distillation of the composer's art. And to be successful at integrating 4 individual voices to sound like a larger ensemble, to really fulfill the orchestral colors of a bigger group is quite an art. And that's why the repertoire that we have at hand, the Beethoven Quartets, the Haydn Quartets, the Mozart, Brahms, Debussy, etc., these works represent the best works of these composers.
Tell me a little bit, as someone from a different discipline, about quartet dynamics, the interpersonal side of it. Is there something you could tell me about that?
Well, it's extremely complex. It's at once you are called upon to play your role, and you're the only one playing that voice. At the same time, you must always pay attention to blend, so you're kind of submitting yourself to the larger product. And I think that's really an art and a skill where you express yourself in the fullest way possible with respect to the composer's music. At the same time, you have to work in concert with 3 other powerful individuals and find a way so that you sound like one. So that's an enduring and ongoing dynamic of compromise and struggle, finding the right balance, or the times where one comes to the fore and the other one has to recede into the background.
Okay, well, just a second. Okay. So I'm thinking the people who come up here have a great deal of talent and promise to begin with, or they wouldn't be here. And when you're in a quartet, is there some kind of, like, if you almost have like 4 hot dogs who are really good, how do they sublimate their ego in a quartet?
You know, that's funny. It's interesting because we have a culture here where the music always comes first. And I think that culture is expressed by the faculty who understand that. It's conveyed by the camp. And our first rule is that you stay with the people you're with and you stay with the piece that you're with. In other words, you have to make a commitment. And so ego, it might bubble to the surface because people say that, it's not about ego, but if people who really work hard to attain a high level have natural pride in what they do. And so it's really trying to join the 4 prideful voices together so that there's an overriding sense of accomplishment for the entire group. Not that one is crushed at the expense of another ego. No, but it's important, and I think this has been highly successful here, that the faculty and the students know that we're all humble before the music that we're trying to learn. It's very humbling and an incredible privilege. And as long as we keep that before us, it's not a big deal.
So there aren't really, it isn't often that a ready-made quartet comes up here. Someone creates these quartets. And tell me a little bit about how that happens.
Well, now that we're having our fellowship programs for quartets that have established themselves or have put themselves together, that's evolving, and we've had very successful quartets who formed themselves. However, the bulk of the camp is the groups are comprised by myself, and this is a process where I match them as closely as I can in terms of their development, their technical development, as well as their musical expressivity. And so I try to match them in age groups, so I don't want a 15-year-old with an 18-year-old. And I rank them according to where they are in their technical accomplishment, and then I have to trust my gut sense of what temperament might go with another temperament. So I want 2 people who are very, very expressive and maybe a hot temperament to be together. And people who are maybe cooler in temperament to be together, so that they have a greater chance of being on the same page.
How many students come up here in a typical summer, and where do you get them? How do you select them? How do you screen them?
48 is the number we accept every year, and that's 12 quartets, 12 complete quartets. They come from conservatories and schools, Ann Arbor, Cleveland, Texas, North Carolina, New York, from everywhere in this country. They apply and they submit audition materials like a DVD or YouTube video, and I view them and I rank them in the way I described before. So a lot of it is just my experience as a musician, sensing who will go with whom.
So are there scholarships available for some, if there's like a need-based
Yeah.
application?
Well, the students are selected first on the basis of merit and their accomplishment. And then they have, if they need scholarship, which is true with most of them, they need to submit a tax form that their parents will fill out and submit. And then Dale Dines, our operations manager, will determine what their financial need is. And every year we've given out lots of scholarship money because the need is great.
What do you hope to impart on students during the time they're here? What do you hope they'll get from this experience?
Friendship, a ever-developing love and awe of the music that they've had before them, and that they have a sense of continuity and a sense of honor being a part of this, and the value of what this process gives to them: discipline, commitment, endurance, a taste of the actual human experience as expressed in music. But I think that the sense of the friendships that they make, I think they make really lasting friendships here, because it's like being in the trenches. They work really, really hard. They watch each other's backs. They really get to know each other. So that's what I love seeing a lot, is how bonded they become to each other, and also that they develop good relationships with teachers.
In this crazy world we live in, why are the humanities important to society, especially music?
Well, I think that as we become more technology conscious, things are so fast. And I think even though there's an emphasis on intuition, I think that the arts really give us grounding and traction in terms of being mindful of what the human experience truly is. And I think with the way things are so speedy, that our culture has put value into what is spectacular and marketable and maybe extra facile, rather than what is profound and what is lasting and what is substantive. So my drum beat is always that classical music is always the human experience itself, rather than observing the human experience. So I think that this is why the students here always feel a profound connection to the music that they're studying.
For an organization like this to survive for almost 30 years, much less thrive as this one has, someone must have been doing something right. What do you count the success of this organization?
Well, hard work, basically. There's the fundraising that has to go on all the time to provide the financial legs for this institution, and Tom George is responsible for that and is constantly working to make sure that it's financially viable. There's the efforts of myself and Dale Dines to make sure that we're always getting students who are appropriate and who will further the principles of this camp and embody the principles of this camp, and that's an ongoing search. And just the help of our staff, Jonathan Creshaw and our librarian and scheduler, who make sure that things run smoothly and that organizationally it's consistent and well run.
In this rapidly oscillating pop culture, I'm always amazed and pleased to see that there are still people that are interested in classical music. It seems remarkable even that these young people in this environment develop this kind of commitment and are willing to put in this kind of time. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think you don't need to sell this to young people. I think when young people listen to it, they get it. And astonishingly, more and more young people are playing instruments, the violin, the viola, the cello, and once you hear a Beethoven symphony, once you hear a Haydn symphony, or symphony by Mozart, or all the incredible works out there, the music speaks for itself, and it's just crass, but it connects to everybody. And so, as long as they're exposed to it, and there's no stigma, superimposed by society about its place in society, then I think it's a natural attraction.
I'm someone who absolutely just has always been in love with classical music. My father introduced me to it when I was young. I grew up with it. But I don't know anything about the mechanics of it or the structure of it or anything else. There must be a tremendous difference between just listening and being moved emotionally by it, and spiritually, and playing it. Difference between listening and playing it. When you're playing it, it must be a different experience.
Well, you can only play it after you've spent many, many hours studying it and grasping the structure and the composer's intention. And it's like building a house. You have to look at the plans. And the listener doesn't necessarily have the time to look at the plans and go through this house from the ground up, from the basement up. And it's kind of a fleeting experience, just listening to a piece. Whereas in a performance, you really become familiar with every brick, with every nail, with every joist. And so you really understand the structure of it and the lines of it, the arc of it, the life and the expression of it.
How explicit are the instructions from the composer? How much room is there for interpretation? I know that the third movement of Mahler's Fifth Symphony is played almost like 13 minutes long by some orchestra,
right.
8 minutes long by another one. How do you know what the intent of the composer is?
Well, I think the answer, there's a lot written in the score, and some of the composers really did put down tempo markings according to the metronome, but those aren't always governing because sometimes they're not doable. And I think everyone who is a responsible musician tries to do their best in conveying what the composer's intentions, but it's like anything, it's ultimately fairly subjective. But people have to still be committed to learning the score.
Well, I was just wondering, those are pretty much the extent of my questions. Do you think is there a question you think I should ask that you'd like to have answered? Or is there something you want to say?
Just that it's been an incredible privilege for me to serve on the faculty and as music director, and it's helped me to grow immensely in terms of my understanding of young people and about the musical process. And I just felt it's been a really fulfilling and rich experience for me here.